Hello, everyone. How are you? It is October. No, my goodness. It is Sunday, September 14th. Sunday, September 14th. And for those of you who don't know me, my name is Erika. I am Bernando LaPalo's oldest grandchild, and I actively maintain the legacy around here. I've been doing a series for the past several months where I am reading from Bernando's classic book, Age Less, Live More, Achieving Health and Vitality at 107 Years and Beyond. So this is the first book that Bernando published, and it was published, about 2008. And I love reading this book every year because there is just so much to it. So we have been going through the list of Bernando's top 10 foods and breaking it down. And this evening, we're going to be going over the next two that he lists in this chapter. We're going to be talking about avocados, otherwise known as alligator pears. And we're also going to be talking about cantaloupe, right, which is also known as muskmelon. It goes by a few different names. So without any further ado, I'm just going to get into it. Okay. All right. Avocado. So basically, let me say this. We're going to talk about, what are we talking about? We're going to talk about the history. We're going to talk about the recommendations. We're going to talk about the benefits of each of these items, these food items that Bernando loves and included in his diet. Okay. Avocado, the alligator pear. Avocados, sometimes called alligator pears, make sure the volume is up on this, okay, it is, have been cultivated, avocados, sometimes called alligator pears because of their rough skin and pear shape, are often thought to be a vegetable, but in fact they are a fruit, a member of the berry family. They are quite popular in Brazil. The country of my birth is now the world's fourth largest producer of this delicious green wonder. So I just learned something new, or was reminded of something new right here, that an avocado is actually in the berry family. Amazing. Let's talk about the history. Avocados have been cultivated in Central and South America for perhaps 10,000 years. This wonderful fruit was a favorite of the Aztecs and many of the other native peoples of the area. They used it as a sexual stimulant. The Aztecs' name for the fruit was ahuacatl. This refers to its appearance and translates into a delicate part of the male anatomy, which I shall not repeat. You always learn something new with Bernando. You always learn something new with Grandpa. This concept of avocados as an aphrodisiac persists until today. Even earlier, the avocado was used as a hair pomade to stimulate hair growth and to help heal wounds. Native Americans used the seeds to treat diarrhea, but in the 1500s, Spanish conquistadors found another use for the seeds. Because the milky seed juice turns red upon exposure to air, the Spanish used it for ink, and many documents produced with avocado ink are still in existence today. That's very, very interesting. Spanish explorers so loved the fruit that they returned with it to Europe, where it gained popularity among the English Navy, as it softened the hardtack they ate for meals. Hence the name midshipman's butter. It was not cultivated in the West until 1833 and did not find mass market appeal until the early 1900s. Mailman Rudolf Haas was granted the first patent on the avocado in 1935, and the fruit bearing his name is now the most common of the avocado varieties eaten in the United States. So I know you've been to the supermarket, right? And you've seen Haas, Haas, avocado. So that was Mailman Rudolph's contribution. Amazing. Interestingly, the man's wife ate the whole wheat toast with half an avocado every day, and she lived until the age of 98. Perhaps his treasured avocado had something to do with it. California is now the largest producer of avocados in the United States, generating about 95% of overall production. An interesting fact, a single tree can produce about 400 avocados per year. All right, so let's break this down a little bit. Okay, so originally from South and Central America, we all know, or probably we know, that a lot of avocados come to us nowadays from Mexico, right? Very interesting that this was considered to be an aphrodisiac. As far as a hair pomade to stimulate hair growth, I remember this when I was younger, right? When I was in my teens, people would say, oh, if you can do a hair mask with avocado. So you would take ripened avocados, mash them up, and then apply this, as a hair mask, right? Leave that on for a few hours. If you could leave it on overnight, you could. People would also use avocado oil, right, to do a mask. And then, remove that from the hair, wash that out of the hair. Obviously, you have to be careful that you're going to use a good drain so you don't clog up your drain with chunks of avocado. But this was a common thing. Let me know in the comments section if you used a fresh avocado mask on your hair to stimulate hair growth. Very interesting. Also interesting that it says that it helps to heal wounds. So perhaps it's very high in vitamin E. That's a little bit of a guess here, an educated guess. Okay, Native Americans use the seeds to treat diarrhea. Interesting. So if anyone knows how the Native Americans used avocado seeds to treat diarrhea, let me know. Did they dry it? Did they ground it into a powder? Did they use it for a tea? Any ideas? Very, very interesting. Then again, using the seed, right, and turning it into an ink. So this is interesting because I do recall going to a museum exhibition and looking at some old manuscripts where the writing on parchment is indeed in red ink. And it just sort of struck me, right? Because of course, living in the century that I live in, I always associated ink and writing with black ink. Let me know if you've seen that too in the comments. Okay, so once again, this fruit, right, became all the craze in Europe. Again, the English Navy, who definitely did not have a gourmet meal experience being in the Navy, used it. It's called midshipman's butter. Very interesting. And then again, he talks about the cultivation of it. It's interesting too, by Haas, and that how he got into patent for it. It's interesting too that he's talking about the whole wheat toast with half an avocado, because around here in New York City, avocado toast is all the rage, right? All the trendy cafes and brunch spots and restaurants have avocado toast on the menu. And it's pretty pricey as well. They have no qualms about charging you $13 for a slice of avocado toast, right? Avocado spread on whole wheat bread. I do want to say, however, that like with anything in life, you have to make sure that this is something that is going to agree with you, that's going to agree with your chemistry and your body. I bring that up because, around 2016, I had the privilege of being on a video podcast by a woman who whose YouTube video channel was called The Fruit Doctor. And she revealed to me that for her, she actually had to avoid eating avocados because it spiked her cholesterol. For her, it was not a good thing. I thought that was very interesting. I'd never heard about that before. But as Bernando would always say, every person's, metabolic, chemical, as it were, makeup is different. And so, just a word to the wise, okay? So if you feel that even eating avocados could be an issue with you, do check in with your doctor. You can always have a blood test run and see if you and avocados are compatible. Recommendations. Fresh avocados are available year-round at nearly any store. They take about a week to ripen once picked, a process that can be slowed down by placing in the fridge or sped up by putting them in a closed paper bag. As always, look for organic if available. Benefits. So now Bernando is going to talk about the benefits of the avocado. The avocado has certainly earned the right to be on my Super 10 list. It packs more soluble fiber than any other fruit. It is rich in magnesium, which is essential for healthy bones and the heart. Avocados have more potassium than bananas, which regulates blood pressure, as well as reducing the risks of hypertension, stroke, and heart disease. Avocados have been shown to help improve the body's ability to absorb nutrients from other foods. Very interesting. Avocados contain oleic acid, that's spelled O-L-E-I-C. Acid, a monosaturated fat that may help to lower cholesterol. Again, this is a caveat. I just mentioned that the Fruit Doctor, right, the YouTuber that I had an interview with about 10 years ago or so, for her, she had to watch her intake of cholesterol because it did not agree with her. Avocados did not agree with her. She had the opposite effect. So again, if you're ever in doubt, work with your doctor. Bernando continues, in one study of people with elevated cholesterol levels, eating the fruit for 7 days produced a significant decrease in total cholesterol and LDL, along with an increase of the good cholesterol, HDL. A single avocado contains around 80 micrograms of lutein, which is very beneficial for the eyes, right? So the eyes are made up of lutein. That makes up, I guess you could say, the cellular fabric of your eyes, along with some other nutrients. So this is very interesting. And one of the most exciting developments is the discovery that certain compounds in the fruit are toxic to many forms of cancer, particularly prostate, breast, and oral cancers. As well as the other vitamins and minerals discussed above, avocados are high in vitamin C and K, folic acid, and copper. Of course, copper is as a trace mineral, as a micronutrient. They are the best fruit source of vitamin E and are a good source of the antioxidant glutathione, which helps slow down aging and may reduce the risk of cancer and heart disease. Now that's interesting because glutathione is something that's very important for your liver, right? In order for your liver to function properly, it needs to have adequate glutathione. And in the polluted atmosphere that we live in, the liver can come under a great amount of stress because of its stress, again, from the pollution to be able to produce an adequate amount. Very interesting. Uses. I love avocados. I use them on salads and sliced on bread. Avocado paste can be applied to dry skin to help make it smoother, and as a facial mask to nourish and moisturize the delicate skin of the face. I hope you'll take the time to incorporate the humble avocado into your diet, if not for the myriad health benefits, then at least to give your romantic life a boost. All right, so that's interesting. So we just got 3 beauty secrets from Bernando in relationship to avocados. So again, you can take ripe avocados, mash them up, and use it as a hair mask, right? It is purported to boost hair growth. Now, I would imagine that you've got to do this on a consistent basis in order to see any results. It usually takes about 3 months or so of doing something consistently to see an improvement, especially with something like hair, right? Which can be notoriously slow to grow, especially as we get older. But again, I do remember as a teen that using avocado masks on your hair was a more common thing. I think that's been forgotten over time. He's also mentioning here that it can be used as a face mask because it's good for increasing moisture to the skin. So again, you would take it, you would make a mash out of it. I guess you would probably mash it up almost in the way that you would do guacamole, maybe not quite that thin, and put that on there, leave it on for a time. Usually it's good to leave a mask on for 15-20 minutes, right? And then remove the mask. I suppose you could always put what's left over into your compost, for example. So very interesting. All right, moving on. We're going to talk about cantaloupe, but I do want to thank Stephanie Sewell for being here and for Tony Bailey for being here and watching the live stream. Thanks a lot. All right, cantaloupe or not. So cantaloupe is something that Bernando really loved a lot. Just as a memory, it was definitely one of the ingredients in his fruit salad. If you haven't been over to the YouTube channel yet, there is a great demo of Bernando showing and talking about his famous fruit salad. He's 109 years old in that demo. So he actually would use 2 kinds of melon. He would use cantaloupe or muskmelon, and he would also use honeydew or like Crenshaw melon along with the citrus that he would put in there, slices of oranges, slices of grapes, apples, and blueberries, for example. And if he could and had a fresh pineapple, he would also put fresh chunks of pineapple. Of course, he would also use grapes. He would use 2 types of grapes in his fruit salad. He would use green grapes, and he would also use dark or purple grapes in his fruit salad. So here we go. Cantaloupe or not. We're reading from page 134 of Age Less, Live More. Cantaloupe, like watermelon, is one of those foods that seems like a real diet breaker because of its delicious sweetness, but it really isn't. It's actually low-cal and vitamin-rich. Interestingly, the web-skinned orange fruit that we call cantaloupe in the United States is actually not cantaloupe at all, but a variety of musk melon. No matter what it's called, there's nothing like a refreshing bowl of this wonderful melon on a warm summer evening. And also it's fall, so you may have noticed in your farmer's market that there's a lot of muskmelon, cantaloupe, and there's also end of the season watermelon, and there's also honeydew and Crenshaw melons. So the fall is actually a perfect time to buy melons. History. The ancestors of today's cantaloupe were native to North Africa and were cultivated in Egypt at least 2,400 years ago. Over time, they spread to the Middle East and around the Mediterranean. The original, true cantaloupe, with its relatively smooth skin, is said to have originated in the town of Cantaloupe in Italy sometime in the 15th century. It soon migrated to France, where it became a favorite of France's elite. And speaking of France, I remember, and maybe you traveled to France yourself, when it would come time for dessert, you would be asked if you would like fruit or if you would like fromage. Would you like fruit or would you like cheese, right? So if you would ask for fruit, you would be brought some delicious, fresh, sweet cantaloupe to consume as a dessert. I remember that distinctly. Let me know in the comments section if you've had that experience as well when you have been traveling to Europe. At around the same time, the variety of muskmelon that we call cantaloupe was being developed in Spain and wound up coming to the Americas thanks to Christopher Columbus. It was grown up and down the Atlantic seaboard, but was not called cantaloupe at that time. Thanks to some enterprising marketers, the name was changed from muskmelon to cantaloupe to associate it more closely with the fancy French variety. Eventually, production moved to the dry areas of Arizona, California, and Texas, where nearly all of the domestic crop comes from to this day. If you're lucky enough to have a backyard, it's actually really easy to grow these melons. You just take the seeds and you just throw them. You can just throw them out in the backyard, and they will germinate at the right time. Recommendations. Cantaloupe is available year-round at pretty much any grocery store. Pick melons that have a khaki-colored skin with no green apparent. Also, the stem end should be smooth. If it's ragged or if there is still a stem attached, the melon was harvested too early. So that's the way to pick a melon. Actually, when I was at the farmer's market last week and I was going to get a melon, I asked the vendor to look at the melon, and I said, which one is the best one? I know it's got something to do with the stem here. Can you tell me which one is the best one? And he was actually a little bit at a loss to tell me. So now you know the secret, right? It shouldn't have a stem on it, right? That means it's been picked too early, and it should be smooth. So if you turn the melon around and you examine it, right, you'll see that there's a spot on it that's a little bit lighter. And if it's lighter and smoother, that is considered to be a good melon. Also, if the melon is fragrant, right, then you also know it's ready and it's good to go. After it's picked, the melon will not get any sweeter, but it will get softer and more juicy if allowed to sit out for a couple of days, but no longer than 4 days. Once cut, use it within 2 days to avoid spoilage, and as always, organic is available as best. So yeah, I know that. I remember Grandpa when he was living in Jackson Heights, Queens, going to shop for fresh fruits and melons. At that time, there was a wonderful array of fruit vendors up and down. I believe it was Roosevelt Avenue out there. And he was expert at picking fruits. And he used to joke. I don't know if he was really joking, but he would sell the fruit sellers, if I bring this melon back to my house and it's not ripe, I'm going to bring you back the rind and you're going to give me a refund, right? He was very serious about his melon being ripe. You want to eat fruit when it's ripe. You don't want to eat fruit when, it's been picked too early, because all the nutritional value is not going to be present for you and it's going to be hard to digest. Is it any wonder that children these days don't like eating fruits or vegetables? Because everything has been picked too early. So the natural sweetness that are filled with nutrients that should be there and present are not there. And so therefore, it's very unattractive. Another marketing trick that you'll notice that purveyors of candy do is that they will color fruits oranges and yellows and reds because they know that in nature, this is nature's way of attracting the human being, right, to entice them to eat these different fruits and vegetables, you know, when they're ripe, because that's when they're good for you, right? So let's go for the fresh fruit, not for the sugary candy. Okay, benefits. As a child, you may have been told that carrots will keep your eyes bright and clear, but it appears that cantaloupe is even more important for keeping your vision strong. Studies indicate that eating 3 or more servings of the fruit per day may lower your risk of age-related macular degeneration by as much as 36%. Cantaloupe is a great source of fiber and is very high in potassium and vitamin A. The fruit also contains a good amount of vitamin C, folic acid, and beta-carotene, which is why it's orange, right? It has only 56 calories per cup and is low in sodium as well. There was an interesting study a while back regarding vitamin A and smoking. It found that smoking or just exposure to secondhand smoke produced a vitamin A deficiency in the body. And a general lack of vitamin A can manifest as emphysema. This may explain why some smokers develop the condition and others do not. Those that do not may not be getting enough vitamin A to make up for the loss from smoking. The conclusion? It seems imperative that smokers and those exposed to smoke maintain a healthy level of vitamin A in their system, and eating cantaloupe is one way to make sure that that is the case. Uses. I try to have cantaloupe daily, either as part of a colorful fruit salad or blended into my daily superfood drink. It goes very well with blueberries and strawberries as well. It is not too filling and is very refreshing, especially during the hot summer months. Call it what you will. This is one sweet melon. All right, let's see what, hey Sandy. Sandy Cameron Balance says, best cantaloupe I ever had was grown in my backyard. Right on. Yeah, if you're lucky enough to have a backyard, right, and live in a place where you can, you know, grow some fresh fruits and some fresh vegetables, more power to you, right? There's nothing like going right out in the back and picking something fresh and having that available to eat for you. So these chapters were a little bit shorter than the other ones that we have read. We have read from page 131 to 137 in Age Less, Live More. Now, there are some honorable mentions that Bernando talks about, and I think I'm going to go ahead and read them. Also, I will say that next month in October, I'm going to read, you know, quote, kind of from this last chapter, as it were, which is called A Day in the Life, right? Because people are very curious about what Bernando's personal routine was. So I'm going to read that next month in October. All right. Also, if you're watching on YouTube, please give this video a like and share it. If you're watching on Facebook, again, Facebook has got this policy now where they're removing all the live videos that are posted on here and posted on anyone's page that makes a live video for storage. So I encourage you all to subscribe to the dedicated YouTube channel for Bernando at Age Less, Live More. All right, let's talk about these honorable mentions. As I stated earlier, there are at least 50 different vegetables, fruits, herbs, spices, and grains that I find very beneficial, not to mention fish. On the previous pages, I singled out 10 for special consideration. I would, however, like to touch on a few more that would also be wise to incorporate into one's diet. They are all extremely healthful, easily found, and can be eaten raw, lightly steamed, or juiced. Obviously, oats need to be prepared per package directions. If you have bad childhood memories of mushy, glue-like oatmeal, I highly recommend steel-cut oats. They are coarser and more cereal-like than rolled oats. Try them, they're wonderful. Okay, so let me go through this list. A for asparagus. Very high in vitamin K, C, A, and folate. Great for the heart, healthy intestinal bacteria, and as a diuretic because of the high potassium and low sodium content. A for apples. Apples, very high in vitamin C, surprisingly, potassium, magnesium, fiber, and flavonoids. Please don't toss the skin. If you don't want to eat it, juice it. Of course, the caveat is you don't want to be juicing skins that have been covered in wax. So if you go to the supermarket, how they get the apples to look shiny, right, is that they actually coat them with a kind of a wax. Spinach, high levels of vitamin A, C, and K, B6, as well as folate, iron, magnesium, and lutein for your eyes. Seems to be a powerful cancer fighter. T for tomatoes. Contains vitamin C, folate, and potassium, but most importantly, lycopene, another cancer and cholesterol buster. It seems that lycopene is also very useful for the heart, and I believe, if I'm not mistaken, for gentlemen, right, to avoid cancer of the prostate gland. Onions, vitamins and antibacterial sulfur compounds, but biggest benefits are flavonoids, which also kick cholesterol and cancer. Bernando was very fond of onions. He used onions all the time. He would chop onions and he would use that to saute his asparagus in, right? Also garlic. Very fond of onions and garlic. He used to call those cousins. The other thing that one of the supporters, one of the subscribers messaged me about here on Facebook was how onions can help preserve vegetables. So I tried it and it actually works. I really enjoy eating fresh salads. So I will buy, big bunches of escarole and red leaf lettuce and romaine lettuce and butter lettuce, different lettuces. Of course, the challenge is always eating it fast enough so it doesn't go bad on you. And there's different techniques that you can use to make the greens in your vegetable bin last longer. One of the things you can do is to just take a damp paper towel and wrap them in that. You don't want it soaking, you just want it damp, right? And then to put it in like a plastic bag. Now, what I found to be very useful is that once I have them in the plastic bag, to actually put a cut onion in the bag. And I noticed that it kept the escarole that I purchased a few weeks ago, free of brown spots, and you know what happens with lettuce, right? After a while, it can go bad quickly. And I was like, my goodness, this really, really works. Also, onions was an addition to Bernando's health salad, right? So I posted a photo of the health salad on this page and on the YouTube channel last week because of the fact that I actually came across fresh celery at the market, which was one of the ingredients to the health salad. If you want to know the recipe for the health salad, I did do a demo on that at Age Less, Live More that's Bernando's handle on YouTube, on his video, and there's also a little guideline or a little recipe for that in his second book, Beyond 100, How to Live Well into Your Second Century. Also, onions are good if you have a cold or a fever, right? You can actually put an onion on your nightstand next to you, whole, and it will absorb, the toxins. Super interesting. Onions are great. They get a bad rap, but they're really good for you. Moving on, carrots. Lots of vitamin A for your eyes, powerful against cataracts. Also carotenoids for cancer and heart disease prevention. Also lots of fiber. They also make great snacks to give to your kids. Celery. Great source of fiber and vitamin C, as well as phytochemicals that reduce cancer risk, can help with muscle aches and electrolyte replacement. So those make great snacks, right, on a hot day, for example. Sweet potatoes, vitamin C, folate, beta-carotene, and minerals for strong bones. Great for the eyes and lowering heart disease risk. Kiwi. Very high vitamin C levels and phytochemicals protect DNA. Guard against respiratory problems. High fiber for heart, colon health, and blood sugar control. Hey Marcus, welcome. Steel-cut oats. Beta-glucan fiber drops cholesterol, reduces diabetes risk, stabilizes blood sugar. Antioxidants protect the heart. High in manganese, selenium, and tryptophan. Great alternative to wheat. So, of course, Bernando recommends steel-cut oats, right? You just want to try and make sure that you buy organic, right? Because you want something like that to be, free of pesticides. And then he concludes by saying, so there you have it. Make these 20 items the core of your healthy diet and begin to reap the benefits of these wonderful foods just as I have. So that's what we've got. That's what I've got for you this evening. Thank you, Marcus, for being here. Thank you, Sandy, for being here. Thank you, Stephanie Sewell, for being here. Thank you for Tony Bailey for being here. Anyone who's watching this afterwards, thank you very much. I really appreciate you being here. As always, I will add the links for you so you know where to get Bernando's books, where you can get his menu and daily regime, where you can obtain the superfood, right, the Superfood Plus, all the wonderful products that the American Botanical Pharmacy has to offer, which are soy-free, which are vegan, which are wild-crafted, 100% wild-crafted and 100% organic, right? No sprays on that. What else am I forgetting to tell you? And put the link in for the YouTube video. So I really appreciate you being here, especially in these days and times. It's really important that we treat our body as a sacred temple that it is. And if anyone has got anything that they want to add here. Hey, Tim Kernock, how are you? It's so nice to have you here this evening. Thank you for being here. So I guess that's all I really have to say for this evening. We're finishing a little bit early. It is 6:41 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. I'm happy to answer, your comments. Again, I would encourage you to subscribe on YouTube. A lot of gratitude to you. Thank you very much. And I will see you next month for our next reading of Age Less, Live More, when we're going to read Bernando's guidelines on eating, how to eat, how much to eat, and also, again, going through his day as he describes it in the last chapter 4, called A Day in the Life. So remember to keep your liver and your colon clean, be well, and I will see you in the next video in the month of October. Good night now. Bye-bye.